Hello, everyone. Welcome to this information session on how the ICA's funding programs support the archival sector. We're very happy to welcome all of you. It's great to see such a large number of people participating. Before we get started, we just have a few little pieces of information for you about how the session will work. We are going to, first of all, to let you know that we are providing translation into subtitles. If you need translation into subtitles, you should click on the bottom of your screen. You should either have a button called Show Captions with a CC, or it might be under the More button with the 3 dots. And you click on Show Captions or Hide Captions according to your preference. And you can choose the caption language. So I wanted to make sure everyone is aware of that. And we'll also be sharing that information in French shortly. The way that the session will unfold is that we'll hear from our guests. I'm really looking forward to hearing from our 4 project leaders, 2 presentations on FIDA projects and 2 on PCOM projects. We are going to let the presenters introduce themselves in the interest of time. After those presentations take place, we will be having a round table with a question and answer period. We would invite you to wait until that time to ask your questions and to ask them in either English or French, and to put them in the question and answer panel, which you'd find by typing or by clicking on Q&A at the bottom of your screen. So that's the information on how the session will unfold. We're excited to have you here. My colleague Marianne Deraz is the program manager for the ICA, and she takes care of the PCOM program. And I'm Jessica Squires, and I'm the coordinator of the FIDA program. Marianne.
Merci beaucoup, Jessica. Je répète donc ce que Jessica Squires vous a dit en anglais. Donc en français, je voudrais vous dire bonjour à tous, bonjour à toutes, et merci d'être là pour ce webinaire qui a donc pour objectif de vous donner un aperçu de la manière dont l'ICA peut soutenir le secteur des archives. Donc le webinaire sera... Nous avons des intervenants qui sont anglophones, d'autres qui sont francophones. Donc, vous avez l'option d'afficher les sous-titres qui seront traduits. Donc, choisissez, on vous demandera, donc vous voyez en bas de votre écran une petite icône concernant les sous-titres. Si vous cliquez dessus, vous pouvez choisir votre langue et votre langue de sous-titrage. N'hésitez pas à utiliser cette option pour pouvoir bien suivre tout le webinaire. Je voulais également vous dire que donc Jessica Squires et moi-même pouvons répondre à vos questions dans les 2 langues, donc n'hésitez pas à les poser dans la langue qui vous convient le plus. En ce qui concerne la manière dont le webinaire va se passer, nous avons donc nous accueillons 4 chefs de projet, donc 2 pour le FIDA et 2 pour la PCOM, qui parleront de leur projet. Nous aurons ensuite un temps de questions et réponses qui sera dédié pour que vous puissiez nous poser les questions que vous avez. Je laisse du coup la parole à Jessica pour la partie concernant le FIDA, le Fonds
Thank you.
international de développement des archives. Excusez-moi.
Thank you, Marianne. Yes, the two project leaders for FIDA projects, FIDA is the Fund for the International Development of Archives, are Hama Frey and Dr. Jamila Gadar. So I will turn the floor over to Hama for her presentation.
Thank you. Now, Ramallah Municipality has the pleasure to be part of this session to present our experience from benefiting from ICA funding through FIDA. Ramallah Municipality is rich with historical, personal collections and administrative funds. The municipality was established 117 years ago, and it has different kinds of historical documents that tell the story of Ramallah's social, cultural, political, and economic heritage, and the municipal council minutes that were taken at that time up till now in the eras of the Ottoman, English, Jordanian, and Israeli occupation up till now. We applied for FIDA fund to qualify our archive staff with the best technical and manual practices to restore the damaged archival documents and schemes, and aiming at investing the staff to safeguard other documents with lower cost and gain sustainability. Now, the project that we applied for is first aid training course. First aid training course for archival physical material, instructed by an expert and was implemented in the restoration lab at the Palestinian Museum in Birzeit, a city near Ramallah. 6 archivists took the course, which consisted of 16 training hours from February till April of this year. Now, the sessions were theoretical and practical, in which they gained the skills of manual restoration. The sessions covered introduction to the preventive conservation of archival materials, introduction to the materials used in restoration, the tools, and their various uses, the actual restoration process, sorting, photographing, numbering, and how to begin the restoration, how to prepare a report about the condition of the damaged documents and needed restoration photographs before restoration. They took how to take the photographs before the restoration. They knew about the techniques of cleaning materials, removing metal staples and the traces as much as possible, flattening and moistening, ironing and use of appropriate tools, removal of adhesives, preparation of a mixture of ethyl cellulose for use in the restoration, use of Japanese paper and other materials. They knew how to fill. They practiced. Actually, they practiced fixing worn edges, filling in gaps, and completing the documents. This fund was successful from our point of view because it would enable us to receive personal collections of Ramallites and institutions for restoration and enriching our fund with these documents. We included restoring the archival historical file in 2026 plan to start with the first phase of cleaning and after purchasing some main tools with lower cost budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Hama. those are very fascinating photographs, and it sounds like a lot of really great work was done. I hope to hear more about that later. And so now we'll turn over the floor to Jamila for her presentation.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Marianne. It's been a pleasure working with you at FIDA. And hi, nice to see you again, Hema. Lovely to see you. As it happens, Hema and I connected. We first met online at the program that we did with the Fighting Erasure Project, which was a combination of training, networking, and capacity building. And I'll share very quickly a website that you can take a look at where there's a lot more information. But at the core of the project we did with the generous FIDA ICA funding was this 24-hour module online, bilingual, in English and Arabic on the fundamentals of archival management and emergency mitigation in Palestine, Lebanon, and the Global South. And the training was really quite comprehensive from the perspective that it offered the really big strokes of archival records management theory within a current and a historical records framework, so a record-keeping framework, as our Australian colleagues like to say. And as part of that, we focused in particular on digitization as well as preservation. And it was a really a multi-pronged effort in the process of doing this training module online in both English and Arabic, as I mentioned. We also translated ISAG into Arabic for the first time. We translated a number of other standards like the ALA minimum standards for digitization into Arabic. We also translated the Tanzania Adelaide Declaration into Arabic, which served as a framework, as a kind of scaffolding for us to work through and think about and acknowledge and be together with the tensions, conundrums, the paradoxes of our predominantly Western oriented frameworks and methods, while addressing a situation like that in the Global South. I don't have too much time to talk and address that particular point, but it's really a moment for me to express my deep gratitude to the Indigenous expert group at the ICA for making that invaluable document possible, making sure it exists. Our training focused on, it began Gaza because of the dire situation that's taking place at the moment. And it quickly expanded, the situation of mass cultural erasure and what the ICC has called a plausible genocide. And of course, we're well aware of the massive devastation taking place there. Many people have expressed a desire to do something, and this project became a place that maybe that was possible. It brought together local people and international people, colleagues from all over the world who developed this curriculum, who translate. It was lots of volunteer work was involved. We also did consultations with local organizations and associations to develop the curriculum, to implement it in order to also deliver it in a way that was viable given the situation in terms of internet and electricity. We had inclusion and accessibility coordinators. It was a truly international team, but predominantly the team was made up of people on the ground in Palestine and in Lebanon. But what happened is when we launched the call for applications, we received well over 400 applications from across the Global South. And it was really quite quite a lot for us. We didn't want to turn anyone away, so we also focused on building our capacity further. We, again, accepted people from across Palestine and Lebanon, but in locations from across the global south, the Congo, Sudan, Yemen, Libya, Bangladesh, elsewhere. We've prioritized people in conflict zones, and the curriculum was indeed targeting people in situations of conflict where those realities are paramount and create extreme difficulty in terms of doing what we focused on, which is emergency mitigation and archival first aid, as well as digitization for preservation under conflict. Our model, again, was community-based, locally driven. You could see here a bit of the massive team that came together, expressing, again, people's deep longing, desire to support and do something. As archivists, we're driven to do something when we see mass cultural destruction taking place, and I think that speaks very well to our field, its ethos, and our colleagues. And so what we ended up doing was actually offering multiple rounds of the training to try to accommodate as many people as possible. We prioritized of the 400 applicants. It took us quite a bit of time to go through them. We prioritized about 280 people that we wanted to give spots to. The first cohort ran from January 25 to March 8, and we had about almost 40 people complete the training, and mostly from Gaza in that first round. And you could see some of our cohort, the lovely, lovely faces there. We're currently just wrapped up the second cohort that ran from, let me show you, that ran from July 5th to August 30th, and we had about 50 people, 50 plus, complete that training. And we're going to plan another round of training, and we're also offering it in person, coming up in person in Lebanon, where there is also a massive Palestinian refugee population. As part of our capacity building component, we're also networking people. We're also connecting people to expert mentors and support. I myself have done quite a few mentoring sessions to help people coming out of the training actually continue, launch, implement digitization and emergency mitigation and archival first aid projects. So these trainings serve as an incubator for that. We're also an incubator for those kind of projects. And we're also, as part of all of that, really working towards sort of that network of mutual support and care and aid amongst each other, because everyone, has a tremendous amount of expertise. Everyone has so much experience and drive and dedication, and we really see our role as facilitators and connectors in the context of the difficulties locally in doing that kind of work because of geographic isolation and checkpoints and different kinds of communication and internet and electricity challenges. There's so much more I'd like to say. You could see here a little bit about the organizers. We have had that kind of model of partnership and collaboration key. Again, there's just so much more I'd like to say, but with the time that's given to me, maybe the main thing I'd like to share is, aside from the fact that this has been the most incredible experience in my long archival education experience, the most incredible experience, one where we all learned a tremendous amount, as much from the participants as others, one where we're deeply gratified with the generosity and kindness of our colleagues. You can see here the kind of guest lecturers we had. But maybe what I'd like to end with is saying that many of us all across the global south, which FIDA addresses, we're dealing with so much need and so many challenges. And what could one project hope to do? But our experience with this project and with the funds that we had is that by bringing in a lot of people, by creating space for community building and collaboration and for everyone to play their role, and by just starting to go in this kind of open way, it became possible for us to do a lot, but also to find ways to get to scale the project bigger and bigger. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. I'm happy to share more of those experiences in our discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamila. For some reason, my video is not working. There we go. Thank you so much for that, Jamila. Much appreciated. There's a lot of information to come to terms and to grasp there, and I hope we'll have a very rich discussion. So those were the two projects that we are spotlighting from the Fund for the International Development of Archives. And I'll turn the floor to Marianne to introduce the two PCOM projects.
Merci beaucoup, Jessica. Je repasse en français. Voilà, donc nous allons passer aux projets qui ont été soutenus par la commission du programme et notamment nous avons le plaisir d'avoir avec nous Madame Estelle Aubé et Monsieur David Fricker. Et je vais donc les laisser se présenter. Donc d'abord, je voudrais donner la parole à Madame Aubé pour présenter son projet.
Merci à tous. Je suis Estelle Aubé, épouse Gessi, donc présidente de l'ONG Archiviste Leader. Je viens donc présenter notre projet, le portail africain des délais de conservation des documents. Alors, il faut dire que c'est un projet qui a été nourri par notre ONG depuis 2020. Pour ceux qui nous suivent, ils sauront qu'on a organisé énormément de webinaires dessus. Et donc, ça fait vraiment l'objet de plusieurs webinaires dans l'optique de faire comprendre le bien fondé de cet outil. Et grâce au financement octroyé par le PCOM en 2024, ce rêve est devenu réalité. Alors, on va dire qu'il part d'un constat fait sur le terrain. La fragmentation et l'inaccessibilité de la réglementation archivistique en Afrique, ce qui représente un obstacle majeur à la bonne gouvernance et à la conformité légale et à la préservation du patrimoine informationnel collectif. En créant dans cette plateforme unique, nous ne nous contentons pas de résoudre un problème technique. Non. Nous fournissons aux administrations, aux entreprises et aux citoyens les moyens de construire des systèmes d'information plus transparents et plus fiables. Alors, archivistes et leaders, il faut savoir que c'est une ONG qui est née en 2019, qui a été créée en 2019 et reconnue officiellement en 2023, dans le 18 janvier 2023 en Côte d'Ivoire. Nous œuvrons à la promotion des métiers d'archiviste et la valorisation des archives en Afrique. Et pour ce faire, nous menons plusieurs activités qui tournent autour de la gestion et préservation du patrimoine archivistique, la sensibilisation, l'innovation et excellence opérationnelle dans le domaine de la gestion documentaire. Nous organisons énormément d'événements, webinaires, conférences pour l'échange d'expertise et bien sûr des plaidoyers et on accorde une part belle à la femme archiviste. Concernant le projet qui nous réunit ici, il faut savoir que notre équipe était composée comme chef de projet Fabrice Yassé, et Landry Enda, dont le coordinateur du projet, et bien sûr tous les membres du bureau exécutif, archivistes et leaders, donc Jean-Marie Capé, Aka, Randolph et moi-même. Et bien sûr, au niveau du PCOM, le projet a été coordonné par Madame Mariam Deraz, qui est là avec nous. Quant aux structures de gouvernance, elle était composée de comités de pilotage international dont la Warbika et la Senarbika. La Warbika, c'est la branche régionale en Afrique de l'Ouest du Conseil international des archives, et la Senarbika, la branche régionale de l'ICA en Afrique centrale. Il y avait également des coordinateurs nationaux de chaque pays pilote et les équipes techniques de développement. Les principes appliqués tout au long de ce projet étaient dans l'inclusivité. Il fallait faire bénéficier, les bénéficiaires étaient au cœur de ce projet. Et bien sûr, l'implication des femmes, la sauvegarde sociale et environnementale, un mécanisme également de feedback et de gestion des plaintes avait été mis en place. Et bien sûr, nous avons encouragé le partenariat local. Le portail de délai de conservation des documents, bien sûr, est un projet piloté par l'ONG Archiviste Leader. C'est une plateforme de référence pour la réglementation archivistique et la gestion des délais de conservation en Afrique. Stratégiquement, ce projet vise à centraliser l'ensemble des lois, décrets et normes archivistiques d'Afrique, accélérer la conformité légale des organisations, soutenir la bonne gouvernance par une gestion documentaire transparente, efficace et conforme aux standards, sauvegarder le patrimoine documentaire et historique africain pour les générations futures. Le public vraiment ciblé par ce projet, c'est bien sûr les administrations publiques, entreprises, organisations professionnelles de l'archivage, les gestionnaires de l'information et bien sûr toute personne intéressée ou impliquée dans la gestion des archives. Notre projet a débuté avec 4 pays pilotes, à savoir donc le Bénin, la Côte d'Ivoire, le Cameroun et le Gabon. Mais nous envisageons couvrir les 50 pays qui composent le continent africain. Le projet a débuté en mars 2024 et a pris fin officiellement en décembre 2025. Le budget octroyé par le PCOM était de 5 € environ pour, je pense qu'il y a des francophones et ceux qui utilisent le franc CFA, ça nous donne environ 3 millions de francs. Le portail a été conçu pour être un outil complet et collaboratif. Ses fonctionnalités clés incluent donc un plan de classement, les typologies documentaires, la gestion des durées d'utilité administrative et d'utilité légale. Il y a une bibliothèque juridique, un forum collaboratif et nous envisageons bien sûr l'assistance IA. L'accès à la plateforme et aux documents validés est libre à tout visiteur. La recherche peut être affinée avec des filtres et vous avez aussi la possibilité de consulter la fiche détaillée d'un texte de votre choix. Le portail opère selon un cycle de vie du document simple à contrôler. Dépôt, l'administrateur pays dépose dedans les textes et leurs métadonnées. Valide donc. Il y a la validation qui est faite par le super administrateur qui assure d'ailleurs le contrôle qualité et gère les autorisations. Les publications, le document est validé et rendu accessible au public et peut être partagé. Le portail s'adresse à plusieurs cibles. Le visiteur accède librement aux documents validés. L'utilisateur inscrit peut interagir, commenter et contribuer aux améliorations. L'administrateur pays alimente la base de données. Le super administrateur gère le contrôle qualité et les autorisations. Quant à l'équipe technique, elle supervise la configuration et la maintenance. Au point de vue de l'impact du projet, nous avons enregistré un impact, mais vraiment significatif. 483 visiteurs, 4 administrateurs et 31 textes ont été chargés pour les 4 pays pilotes. Les leçons que nous pouvons tirer de ce projet, donc entre ce qui a marché, c'est vraiment l'implication de la communauté à toutes les étapes. Il y a l'appui de l'ICA via le PCOM, il y a l'implication de la WERBICA et de SENARBICA, et bien sûr les associations professionnelles et les directions des archives nationales. Qu'est-ce qui doit être amélioré? Il y a bien sûr le budget. On a constaté que le budget était quand même pas suffisant pour un tel projet. C'était quand même assez compliqué, il faut le reconnaître. Il y a également souci en matière de langue, parce que la plupart, nous sommes francophiles et la majorité parle anglais, donc c'est pas souvent évident. Il y a également le taux de femmes et des personnes vivantes avec handicap qu'on doit chercher à impliquer dans tous les projets que nous menons. Maintenant, les prochaines étapes concernant notre projet, il y a la refonte du portail qui est d'ailleurs en cours. Il y a la mobilisation des ressources pour la phase 2, donc alimentation du portail. À la différence quand même des autres projets, notre projet n'est pas un projet ponctuel. Nous sommes appelés à continuer à travailler sur ce projet-là. Je l'ai dit au départ, nous voulons atteindre les 54 pays de l'Afrique. Or, on a été financé que pour 4 pays pilotes. Nous souhaitons également intégrer l'IA et la version mobile de ce portail-là. Mettre en place également les mécanismes de durabilité de ce portail. Alors, il faut retenir que la création d'outils collaboratifs comme le portail que nous vous présentons est indispensable pour l'harmonisation des pratiques archivistiques et le renforcement des capacités en matière de gestion de l'information sur l'ensemble du continent africain. Alors, je réitère vraiment nos remerciements au PCOM qui a rendu ce projet-là vivant, qui nous a permis de pouvoir réaliser ce rêve que nous avons nourri pendant des années. Je vous remercie et on reste disponible pour toutes les questions.
Très bien, merci beaucoup Estelle. C'était effectivement ce projet est magnifique et la commission du programme a été très heureuse de pouvoir la soutenir. Je vais maintenant passer la parole à Monsieur David Fricker. I will just now switch to English and give the floor to Mr. David Fricker because he also has a very interesting project to discuss.
Thank you, Marianne, and thank you everybody for joining us for this session. Also, can I just extend my congratulations to my colleagues that have been presenting their initiatives, the FIDA initiatives and that PCOM project. They really are very inspirational and very important initiatives. Look, our project that was supported through PCOM was to look at the issue of the impact of artificial intelligence on archival practice. The project actually had its genesis back in June of 2022 during International Archives Week. ICA hosted an event on emerging technology, and following that event, there emerged a great deal of support and interest from the ICA community to do more about investigating the impact of AI on archival practice. And following on from that, late in 2023, we had initial discussions with myself and Dr. Hamad Al-Mutairi from the National Library and Archives of the UAE and Margaret Crockett about the possibility of proposing a project to do something concrete to help ICA members understand more about the impact of AI on various areas of archival practice. So in late 2023, we made a submission to PCOM and proposed the project with the aim to equip every ICA member with a professional understanding of state-of-the-art AI technology and with a specific focus on its actual and potential application to each of the subject areas that had been identified in those feedbacks. And what we wanted to do is perhaps go beyond the general discussions and much of the marketing hype around AI and try to make these sessions quite practical and quite technical, if you like, for archivists and for records managers. The intended audience of our project was any ICA member that requires a professional understanding of current and emerging AI technology and the potential of that technology to have application to archival practice. And so it became a quest for professional understanding, not necessarily a tutorial in nuts and bolts coding of AI, but making it possible for every ICA member to have a professional command of AI technology and what it could mean. To make it as accessible as possible to the ICA community, we proposed that we would make the online tutorial sessions available in French, English, and Spanish through the use of subtitles on the videos. PCOM supported our submission, and also one of the advantages of using PCOM as an umbrella to undertake a project like this is that straight away PCOM gives you a structure and a project management framework to actually undertake your project, to organize your project in a way that is going to give it the highest chance of success. The other thing that PCOM strongly proposed, which really benefited our project, was to make sure that we were using partnerships and reaching out to the community. So we did form a project team represented with 14 team members from various regions of ICA. And I would like to mention each of those 14 team members, if I could, very quickly. One of them is with us here this evening, Estelle Aubé. It's nice to see you, Estelle. Also, Saman Qureshi, Segamotso Keokopa, Margaret Crockett, Samaya Langley, Kelly Spring, Joshua Cassi, Claudia Escoto, Kit Geok, Moises Rockenbach, Luis Estebe Casellas, Sharon Smith, and Olafile Mosweyu made up the team members. And that gave us a tremendous diversity of views from various regions of the world, and a multilingual, a multi-skilled project team, which really helped add depth and breadth to the project. Also very important, which came to us from PCOM, was the need to partner with an expert group or a branch within the ICA. And we were very lucky to partner with the expert group on managing physical and digital records, which is chaired by Samaya Langley, or was chaired at that time by Samaya Langley. Now, with that in mind, with the project framework and that project team that we had, we produced 8 videos in all. So we produced a video in the format of a discussion with an international expert, followed by a panel discussion made up of our team members to sort of break down the topics that had been discussed and produce some sort of a summary of what we could learn from that session. Each session went for about 45 minutes to 60 minutes in length. The 8 video titles that we produced were, as I said, addressing areas of archival practice. And so there's one on AI and appraisal and selection. There's another on AI and digital preservation. A third title was AI to support research and public access. We produced one on AI and archival description. AI and photographic archives, looking at a specific type of archives and the way that AI had particular offerings to manage photographic collections. We then also went, if you like, a bit further away from archival practice and talked about some of the broader strategic issues that archivists and records managers would face when using AI. So we produced 3 titles. One, AI, ethics and human rights, addressing those sort of ethics and human rights issues that we all need to face when we apply AI technology to managing archives. We also had a video on using AI to promote the archives, using AI to enable the general public to understand more about the value of archival collections and the way that general public could make the most out of archives and archival institutions. And then the final video we produced is perhaps looking inward at our own professional community with a title dedicated to how we can maintain our professional knowledge of AI. So they were the 8 video titles that we produced. They were then placed up on and they are today on the ICA online resources website at ica.org. And they are, as I counted them today, I think to date we've had just under about 2,900 views. So they've been quite successful and quite well received across the ICA community. Now, I would say just in conclusion that for me, I think the key to success here in submitting and running and executing a PCOM project is to have a diverse team, to reach out across the ICA community and find people that can work with you and give you that diversity of views and that extra contribution of knowledge to make the most out of it. And Estelle, your presentation just now, I think, showed the strength in doing that, as has our other presenters this evening as well. Another key, I think, is project management. And I think PCOM gives you the framework for managing your project for success. It gives you a framework to make sure you've clearly specified your aims and objectives, that you clearly have identified the partnerships that you're going to have, and you've outlined a schedule of outcomes and deliverables that you're going to achieve. Thirdly, PCOM support is invaluable. We had a notional budget set aside for us for this project. I'm very happy to say that the National Library and Archives of the UAE supported the project thoroughly with infrastructure support and software, etc., that we needed. So combined with the volunteers of our project team and the input and support from NLA in the UAE, we didn't in the end need that financial support from PCOM, but it was there at the beginning to give us confidence to proceed. The partnership I mentioned is very strong. In our case, we had the partnership with an expert group, very important for a successful project. Institutional support, in our case, from the National Library and Archives of the UAE was very strong. And finally, can I say the support from the ICA Secretariat was just key to our success. From you, Marianne, from Maria Paula as well in the ICA Secretariat. And through Marianne, we had excellent support from the Training Program Advisory Group. All of these inputs really make sure that your project can stay on target, can be true to the aims that you've set out to achieve, and you can achieve it with a reasonable time frame. So I'll conclude my comments there and hand back to you, Marianne. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, David. And I must say that your project was very timely for the program commission, who had identified AI as one of the burning questions for the profession, and the work you have been doing with your team, including in coordination with the ICA groups, has been the key to the success of this very excellent project.
Thank you all very much to the presenters, and it is now time for folks to ask questions. If you have a question or a comment, please feel free to put it in the Q&A by pressing on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And please feel free to ask your questions in either English or French. We can respond, and Marianne and I can facilitate if there's a need for some interpretation. Also, Marianne and I can answer any specific questions about the program should you have them, but we can also take those via email in the interest of time if that works. So let's see, what do we have here? We have a question from Paul Kelly. It says, Machakos was the colonial capital of Kenya and housed the first colonial governor. The county assembly sits on the building that was used by the colonial administration. There is lots of rich documentary heritage, including historical documentation of Second World War heroes, documentation of tunnels that were used by the colonial administration, and many others. How do we engage and apply for such project funding, considering lots of the documentation is colonial and may need repatriation procedures? It's an excellent question. I hope that that our background technical people can put some links in the chat for folks who are interested in applying for project funding. Both FIDA and PCOM currently have an open call for projects process. The deadline is in about 10 days, though, so it'd be good to go and look at that documentation as soon as possible. I would say in short that I think key for both programs, and Marianne, please feel free to fill in any gaps, but it's important that the project, if it's proposed, come from that it is supported by a member of the ICA, ideally an archival institution, but if it comes from an individual, that is accepted. But just make sure you've got support that will make sure that the project is sustainable. Whatever the work is that you want to do is going to have a future outside of the project funding that you might receive from the ICA. It's a very short, incomplete answer. Please look at our websites and send us any questions you may have about your specific ideas.
And Jessica, may I contribute just a little to that as well? If I can obviously agree with you, but can I suggest if there's repatriation of records required, absolutely what you're saying about institutional support, but I really recommend that the owners, the custodians of those records to be repatriated should form part of the submission. I think at the outset you should obtain some sort of agreement that some arrangement can be made for the repatriation of records, because those agencies will be very important to the success of that project. I would suggest, just as someone sitting on the edges of that question. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Do you want to take the next question, Marianne?
So the next question is from the National Archives of Indonesia. Is there any experience of archives management design projects that have been carried out in a country? I think that in the ICA Resource Center, you will find several documentation and guidelines about this, including this topic, this subject in the guidelines. However, I don't see, from the PCOM project perspective, I don't see one I would be able to highlight especially. Do you have, Jessica, some additional ideas?
Yeah, I think it would depend on the details of the project. If the question is about designing a record-keeping system for one institution, then you're probably looking at something that might be eligible for FIDA funding, depending on the scope of the project, who's involved, and that kind of thing. But like if it's about a building, then there is an expert group on archive buildings that could potentially be consulted, but it's unlikely to be realizable within the budgetary constraints of our two programs. So it depends on what the project proposal is. Maybe I'll just go to the next question. What practices are being implemented to make old documents readable by AI? Perhaps that's a question for David. You might know.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. Look, there's some really exciting work going on exactly that topic. Just one, for example, that again, Estelle is very familiar with, because Estelle, one of our videos that we produced had Estelle interviewing the French National Archives on their CIMARA project. And so I recommend you perhaps watch that video, or otherwise go to the French National Archives website and look at the CIMARA project. So it's a combination of optical character recognition with named entity recognition, and then that goes through another AI robot, if you like, software, which creates finding aids for these handwritten ancient documents. It's a fascinating example of how AI is being used to make those old, historic ancient documents accessible and readable using AI. And Jessica, maybe Estelle, if Estelle is still listening, Estelle might add something to that, because it was something that she interviewed the gentleman from the French National Archives.
Thank you, David. Go ahead.
Estelle, si vous voulez prendre la parole.
Ah oui, en fait, c'était pour peut-être compléter ce que David a dit tout à l'heure. C'est possible que l'IA puisse prendre en compte les anciens documents. Comme il a dit sur le projet IA, il suffit de se rapprocher justement on va dire, les archives de France, parce qu'il y a des personnes qui ont travaillé vraiment sur des documents anciens, et aujourd'hui, ils arrivent à exploiter ces documents-là sans problème.
Thank you very much, Estelle. We do have another question, and we still have a few minutes left, so don't hesitate if you have a question you'd like to ask. It is hard to read the Ottoman language with optical character recognition. Do you have any comment about it? That's a very good question. I'm not sure, David, would you?
Look, I know that the
or perhaps the other panelists
Ottoman,
as well. Yeah.
Yes, sorry. So the Ottoman script is, of course, it's different to modern Arabic script. I do know that there are organizations such as Family Search, which are investing quite a bit in OCR technology to read these older, sort of more classical scripts. And I was chatting with our colleagues from the Bulgarian National Archives last week, and they have in their collection quite a few of these documents as well. And I think they are looking at this issue. So I can't point to anything today that says that somebody has applied OCR to those things. But can I tell you, what we have learned through this PCOM project is that the OCR technology is very sophisticated. It is very advanced, and it's quite cost effective. It might be cheaper than you think it is to apply it to something like reading Ottoman scripts. So I don't have a definitive answer for our question, Jessica, but I really do recommend perhaps just hunting around a little bit, perhaps talk to our colleagues in Bulgaria, and maybe even organizations like Family Search, who I think are investing in this area. And Jamila, you may have better knowledge of this.
I would just suggest the best place to pose the question is at the Middle East Librarians Association.
The Middle East Librarians Association. Thank you, Jamila. Very good suggestion. Okay, do we have another question? No, we do not. Perhaps I could ask the project manager's question. I was wondering, in the context of the application process for your PCOM or FIDA project, what do you think were the strengths of your proposals? What from your perspective, why do you think your project application succeeded? Trick question.
I think
Who would you like to go first, Jamila? Yeah.
Sure. I think that trick of identifying a really pressing and even big need, but finding a scope that can fit the project grant, the amount and the timeline. And that's really difficult. But it's difficult because we want to do so much. Again, we're archivists, we're quite driven. And I think it's okay to think the full big vision, and then just pick that, think of it as a first step rather than the full project. I found that helpful.
Thanks, Jamila. Anyone else?
Bon, je vais peut-être aller dans le même sens qu'elle au niveau de la globalité. On va dire que nous, notre point fort, c'est vraiment un projet qui prend en compte la réalité africaine. Et donc, tous les pays africains, en principe, sont concernés par le problème de gestion documentaire et mettre en place un outil similaire, c'est vraiment résoudre les problèmes en matière de gestion des documents au niveau du continent. C'est-à-dire que c'est un projet où tout le monde se sent concerné. Je pense que c'est ce qui a fait en sorte que le projet puisse être choisi.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I might, as well as agreeing with Jamila and Estelle. For me, I think it was, and this came from the PCOM process itself, actually, which forced us to make sure that we'd reached out and spoken to a few people, across the ICA network, to get a diversity of views and some contributions that would really encourage us to say that, yes, we could. We've looked at this problem in several different ways, and we have a clear aim of what we want to achieve. And we have enough people in the ICA network to work together on this to make it succeed. And so as an example, back to the earlier question about the possible repatriation of those records to document the tunnels in the historic site. In a case like that, it's important to reach out to where those records are at the moment and see if there are partners, see if there's people that can work with you to make your project a success. But I strongly agree with you, Jamila and Estelle, to scope it. Don't try and solve all the problems of the world. Have a clear, well-defined scope. I think that's also excellent advice. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh dear, we only have 2 minutes left and we have 2 questions. There's one in the Q&A and one in the chat. The question in the chat is about AI. I wonder, David, if you might go into the chat and just reply to that one by typing an answer. While we take the question in the Q&A, which is asking if there are any particular issues or risks do any of the presenters think that we should be aware of in planning and implementing projects, considering the global challenges and issues we're facing today. That's a huge question. Perhaps we could ask Hama if you have any comments on that, and then see if we have any quick additions from the rest of the panel. You're on mute, Hama. There we go. Great.
Okay. What's the question about?
The
Sorry.
question is, what are the global challenges that we need to keep in mind in order to ensure that a project can be successful?
We have we have to build a sustainable. The project should be sustainable. So we have to invest in the staff, invest in volunteers who would like to volunteer in such projects, so that a lot of people, let's say, start with the youth. Also, some people would like to work in this in the archives. Archives are live. When they are indulged in these archives, when the staff is also have different practices and practices in detailed work. For example, how to restore the documents, how to digitize the documents. It's a sustainable. It should be sustainable. All projects should be sustainable so that we could continue.
Thank you, Hama. That's a really excellent answer. I don't think we have time to go to the rest of the panel. Thank you all very much for your participation today. Marianne, did you have any quick words?
Non, je voulais juste aussi également remercier en français et puis vous rappeler que la date, que les 2 appels à candidature pour les projets sont ouverts jusqu'au 15 septembre. Donc n'hésitez pas, si vous avez des projets, à nous contacter et à soumettre vos propositions.
Thank you all very much, and the link to the calls for projects is in the chat. Have a great rest of your day wherever you are. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.